And a very, very happy end of Oklahoma and Texas's run in the Big 12 conference to you and yours. Today, we will talk plenty about the Big 12. It is not going to just be about Oklahoma and Texas departing the conference. And of course, the four corners coming into the league now as well. All the changes happening across college football becoming official here on July 1st. But we are going to talk about a message being sent by the Big 12, and it was really TCU that keyed this. TCU has said that they are going to pay that full revenue sharing number, which is a powerful statement for the Big 12 that the league is not going to back down as of right now. If that wasn't clear enough by the private equity story that broke a couple of weeks ago, the fact that the Big 12 is legitimately exploring that, now you know that schools within the Big 12 are saying, yeah, we're going to do this. We are going to pay the revenue sharing number. And Jeremiah Donati even had an update on what he thinks the future of collectives will be, which is a bit different than what we heard on this channel from a different AD in the Big 12, that being K State's Gene Taylor. So I do want to talk about all that with you because make no mistake, the Big 12 and its schools saying, hey, we're going to pay the rev share number. That is a statement. That is a statement directly toward the SEC and the Big 10 that we're not just going to lay down for you. We are not going down without a fight. And that's what the league seemingly intends to do. It may well be through the private equity or private capital. There was a good tweet the other day that tried to make the case with some numbers like, hey, this may not be actually as risky as everybody is making it out to be. But of course, it was immediately met by, well, yeah, here's the list of entities that have done better after private equity. Like, okay, well, maybe this is private capital and not private equity. All right. There's some semantics at play here. Anyway, I do want to talk about that off the top of the show. There is in progress. I just have not had a chance to react to any of this, but there is in progress. Josh Pate dropping a bomb on everybody about the ACC and Florida State. It sounds like on his live show tonight, he said basically like that's going to happen. Florida State will leave, and then multiple other schools will come with them. So that's obviously very newsworthy, but I have not had a chance to hear this. So I would just say look for something on that coming up. We can certainly talk about everybody's favorite Paul Feinbaum and his comments about Florida State and the Big Ten, which still do seem fairly off to me. At least just, I don't agree with that statement at all. He said that Florida State doesn't really fit with the Big Ten, and it's mainly because of academics. That's just a big eye roll. Like, who is caring about academics anymore in the world of conference realignment, in a world where the Pac 12 does not exist because 100 years of history didn't matter? I don't think that Florida State only being ranked in the 50s in the U.S. World News University rankings is going to prevent them from joining the Big Ten and the Big Ten being able to plant its flag into the state of Florida. All right. So, maybe the angle here, though, is just that Feinbaum is trying to get Florida State into the SEC and keep them away from the Big Ten. I did have some people, I saw you guys in the comments letting me know that that's really what's going on here. And, you know, perhaps that's what it is. And I was being a little bit too naive about Paul Feinbaum's comments. I do want to celebrate Oklahoma and Texas in the Big 12. You guys know how much I love Oklahoma and Texas. I love Oklahoma and Texas so much that I gave everybody on Twitter, and you can follow me at JL Kurtz. I gave everybody on Twitter a chance to hit me with their favorite Oklahoma and Texas memories. It is that time. All the great memories that we had with OU and Texas in the conference. So I got a ton of responses. I do have to be honest, way more responses about Texas than Oklahoma. So if we are talking about how Big 12 fans really feel about these two on their way out the door, it would appear that there's a lot more love for the Sooners because everybody is coming in with their favorite memories of Texas, which, of course, you know, are negative. A lot of losses piled up by Texas during their time in the conference, especially over the last decade and a half of the Longhorns being there. So I want to read some of your responses because, honestly, some of you guys were making me smile with some of the memories that got brought up, including one in particular that is one of my absolute favorite Big 12 games and Big 12 moments that didn't involve K-State, by the way. This is not a K-State moment, okay? For those of you that think I would just be a total homer with that. I do have to also say, look, guys, figured today was appropriate. I got the Big 8 shirt. I got the old Big 8 shirt on. to signify the changing of the Big 12 into a conference that will now have 2 times the amount of teams that it had back in the Big 8 days. So, it is what it is. We live in 2024, unfortunately, and not 1994. A couple odds and ends we could get to if we have time here. A little bit on the Big East TV deal, what that could mean for the Big 12. A terrific Jim Schlossnagle quote, who continues to just not get it. Man, guys, I tell you what, you should go read the comments on that Texas video that I put out this past week. There was a clip from the live show, man. Texas fans not real thrilled about that one. Anyway, appreciate all of you being here. Please like the video if you are here. That would be very much appreciated. Leave me a comment, but if you want to make sure that you get on the show tonight, click the $ below the chat box. You can attach a super chat donation. By doing so, it will guarantee that you make it on the chat tonight. But please tell me throughout the show your favorite memories of Oklahoma and Texas in the league. I will try to get to some of those. If you want to ensure that it makes it on, again, click the $sign below the chat box to do that. Couldn't do it without all the guys who do support that way. I genuinely do appreciate it. Really, really do. So there is that. Again, like the video, and it's John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo. If you'd like to leave a question or comment there, you can do so, and I will kick off the next show with it. So even if you're not catching this live, John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo is a great way to support the channel as well. And you can still be a part of things, because I will get to and answer your question or comment to kick off the next show. So with that, let's get to Jeremiah Donati and TCU. I talked to Gene Taylor not that long ago. I played you guys that audio here on the channel. Gene Taylor is the athletic director at K-State. He was a bit more coy at the time about whether or not K-State would be, in their instance, on their behalf, trying to hit the full revenue sharing number, which projections are around $20 to $22 million per year. And you have to think of that as more or less like your entry fee, table stakes to be able to play with the big boys in the top upper echelon league of college football. That will be the price of admission. Now, there will likely be much more beyond that, which is still going to come in the form of collectives, according to Jeremiah Donati, which I will read you those comments in just a moment. But if you want to at least be like somewhat on a level playing field, you're going to have to hit that revenue sharing number. That's something that is much easier, obviously, if you are a Big Ten school or an SEC school where you're going to have 30 plus extra $1 million per year to be doing that. But it still is difficult for everybody, because that's a hell of a lot of money to have to go find in your budget all of a sudden. And for the Big 12, this is why we started to get the stories coming out, or the story that came out about private equity / private capital. That is a way to infuse the cash to be able to get what it is that you need to hit the revenue sharing number. And I do believe the fact that we're seeing Jeremiah Donati and TCU come out now and pretty emphatically in a letter to fans, right? So I think that is something of note too. This was a letter to fans. So he is speaking directly to the fans and saying, this is what we're going to do. We are not going to let TCU fade away. We are going to play at the highest level. The fact that this is happening would lead me to believe that these guys think there's a legitimate chance that they are going to be able to get that private capital or private equity money, because I don't know how you could. It would seem to be much more tricky, much trickier if you're not going to do it that way. Like, you will have to make damn sure that you're going to be able to actually do this before you would want to be coming out with emphatic statements like this. That's my read on it anyway. So anyway, let me read to you from Jeremiah Donati here. And in fact, I could share my screen for you all, and we could all go have a little looky-loo ourselves from the desk of ADJD. That being athletic director Jeremiah Donati. As you are likely aware, the dominant topic in college athletics, especially at the recent convention in Vegas, has been the settlement of the House NCAA class action lawsuit. Pending settlement involves the payment of back damages to former student athletes. Okay, we know all this. All this will combine to provide a new collegiate athletics model, an industry reset that comes with a significant permissive expense projected to be over $20 million annually. The timing of the settlement coincides with TCU's announcement of athletics being one of 4 priority pillars in its next strategic plan. At TCU, athletics serves as the front porch of our university, and we're committed to maintaining TCU's position as a member at the top echelon of athletics, competitive at the highest level. And I would just stop right there. I mean, that seems to be the Big 12 messaging right now across the board. Maybe some aren't putting it in a letter to alums quite yet, but the stories that have come out tell you the Big 12 with its actions is basically dictating that message right now. And Brett Yormark went to go preach that message to the Arizona Board of Regents when he was out there speaking to leadership surrounding Arizona and Arizona State. We talked about that at the time. That was really the message. Now is the time. You got to really invest in athletics. We intend to be going at it at the highest levels. So our athletics programs add value to TCU's reputation as a leading university, enhances student recruitment efforts, and helps define TCU's unrivaled student experience. And then in bold, you guys see it in bold, we are very excited to announce that we will fully participate at the maximum level in this permissible revenue sharing plan with our student athletes. Along with this, we will be prepared for the challenges and opportunities that it will bring. Many questions, however, do remain, and we will need time to work out many details. For example, how and when we distribute that revenue remains unclear at the moment. So, yeah, a lot of this is going to be similar things that we hear from everybody right now because no one knows exactly how it will all be distributed here. We have those questions. But with those questions unanswered, the important piece is that TCU is saying, hey, we are going to do this. And this is why I frame it up as this is really a statement to the SEC and Big Ten, because otherwise the SEC and Big Ten could very easily look at this and say, all right, well, they're kind of weak right now. Big 12 showing some weakness. They're not coming out and saying that they're going to pay this thing. Go start scouting players, boys. Like this is going to become our real true minor leagues. Meanwhile, the Big 12 is not doing that. Jeremiah Donati becoming the first, at least to my knowledge, that I've seen to really put this out there publicly. Now, I know I saw like a Texas Tech fan in the replies on this on Twitter at some point saying, well, Kirby, being Kirby Hocutt, the athletic director at Texas Tech, has already said this. And it looked to me like Kirby Hocutt basically just said, we're going to continue to be at the top level of collegiate athletics. I didn't see the specific talking about this number. And then, as I mentioned, Gene Taylor, let me see if I can go pull that clip back up for you. Gene Taylor at K-State, when I talked to him, was a little bit more vague. And this was not that long ago. This was within the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, here we go. All right, I'm going to have to make sure that I get the screen switched over for you. 1 second. Here we go. All right, so Gene Taylor, this is what he had to say about it all just a couple of weeks ago, a fellow Big 12 AD.
Do we share it equitably amongst our athletes and conform with Title IX? Or is it a true revenue share in the sports that make most of the revenue, which would be football and basketballs, get a majority of the revenue share? And then what does that put us in as position as an institution? If we do that, are we facing a Title IX lawsuit? If we go to the equal share or revenue, if we do it equitably, then are we facing some other kind of lawsuit from some of the athletes that generate a majority of the revenue? And we don't have answers for that. We kind of know a number that we're working towards and figuring out how we're going to get there.
Very into the clip is the key there. The rest is basically what Jeremiah Donati starts to get into with this. Like we still don't know how the Title IX stuff will break out. Basically, will we have to pay female athletes an equal amount to the male athletes? And then, where the collective is going to come in and function with all of that. But it's a little bit different, right? He says, Gene Taylor says, we've got a number that we're working toward. Jeremiah Donati says, we're going to hit the full number. We've got this. Now, I will just say, I do believe that K-State is going to hit the full number as well. I do believe that that is the plan. I just, for whatever reason, it doesn't sound like they were ready at that point to come out and directly say that. And again, that was 2 weeks ago. We know that the story was out there about the Big 12 considering private equity and private capital. So perhaps that has moved along a little bit further in the last couple of weeks as those discussions continue. Like the Big 12 did not seem to want to comment on any of that when it came out. Gene Taylor did not comment on any of that when I had him for the interview, tried to get him to. And he was not about to go down that road, which, is very understandable if you have a potential deal in the works. So I would just say keep all that in mind. I do think the timing is very interesting on that. A couple weeks ago, K-State won't fully commit to the number. Now Jeremiah Donati, a couple weeks later, is. In between there, I will just say my belief increased that K-State is going to be able to hit that full number and that is the plan. So, we'll see what Brett Yormark's going to say when he takes the podium like 9 days from now. We are 9 days away from hearing from Brett Yormark at Big 12 Media Days. That will be on July 9th. That's a week from Tuesday. So maybe there will be a little bit more at that point. I will be very, very curious what it is that he'll have to say, not just about if things have progressed with private equity and private capital, but also how firm is he going to be up there? Like, our schools will hit this number, or our schools aren't going to back down from being at the top level of college athletics. Brett Yormark's words will be very much dissected there, as they should be. And he's typically not one to really shy away from much or be very timid about this. We know the open for business line that he has used a couple of times. Will we get another sort of line like that from Brett Yormark? Something memorable. I certainly am looking forward to it, and I will be there in Vegas to take it all in. So we shall see. But that is, to me, the most important update in Big 12 country since I have last talked to you over the last 4 or 5 days, is that we got that put out there from TCU athletic director Jeremiah Donati. And now, I guess another thing, a closing thought on this will be, it's out there now from Donati. Big 12 schools now, do they start feeling the pressure to go put the same message out there? Are alums across the league, have enough people seen this, I guess would be really the question. Have enough people seen this for alums at other schools to be pushing their athletic department like, hey, well, what about us? Like, if TCU's doing it, we better be doing it, because now we're not just talking about falling behind with SEC and Big Ten schools. We can't be falling behind within our own conference. There will be some real, I want to say here, intra-conference pressure there, right? Isn't that right? Intra-conference pressure. It will be pressure from others within the same league. If one school is going to do it in the Big 12, that should trickle down to others. Other schools are going to have to do it or else risk falling way, way, way behind. So that has really set the bar. TCU has gone out and set the bar, and credit to the Frogs for doing so, man. I mean, credit to the Frogs for doing so. That's a pretty bold, ambitious move here at this point in time, when there still are so many moving parts and so many unknowns, including how exactly the Big 12 is going to allow their schools to finance all of this. So anyway, let me know what you think. Click the $ below the chat box if you have thoughts on Jeremiah Donati and TCU. If you want to ensure that you make it in the chat here tonight, you can also hit me with your best Oklahoma and Texas memories as we say goodbye to the Sooners and Longhorns in the conference tonight. And we start tonight with our good friend David. What's up, David? David, thank you for being here. David says, John, tomorrow is July 1st. Husker football players report the last week of July. All right. So David, who is our resident Nebraska fan in here, is fired up about the fact that we will officially tomorrow have entered the month that college football players will be reporting to start fall camp. So David, I feel the excitement in a way. I do feel like that's one of those statements where it's like, all right, yeah, if you want to be really optimistic about it and be like, damn, we're getting so close to football, like, you can kind of talk yourself into that. I look at it, and maybe this is just me personality wise, I'm a little more cynical about it. And I look at it like, oh boy, okay, so it's July 1st and we've still got to wait to the end of the month before we even get players reporting to then start fall camp. And then we've got like another month before we actually start getting games and the season starts. It almost makes it, to me, feel like, oh boy, we've still got a ways to go. Which I was talking to somebody this weekend, and I had a similar sort of thought where I was just like, man, can we just get there? And it was actually, it's funny, and this will be a developing story throughout the fall. Not that it really matters to you guys too much, but my girlfriend and I started dating in late October, early November, like basically right at the end of October last year. And so like she got like a tiny little taste of like what football season is like, but you know, we were still, it was so new and we weren't hanging out that much. And now it's going to be a lot different this fall, like having to digest what it's like to experience a football season like that. These Saturdays, like I'm, gonna need a lot of time and a little bit on Sundays for the Chiefs too, if at all possible. So anyway, just something that jogged my memory there. David, appreciate you. I love the excitement. I need to be a little bit more optimistic like you. So keep some of that coming for me. All right. Hopefully some of that will rub off on me. Browns and Beers. What's up, Browns and Beers? Browns and Beers says, and thank you for your support, my friend. Browns and Beers says, may Texas's hubris hurt the SEC like it did with the Southwest Conference and the Big 12. No conference network. 2016 expansion definitely hurt the potential of the league. Well, it is very true that Texas has been a bit of a burden for both the Southwest Conference and the Big 12. It really embodies that meme, which is a good one, of the Grim Reaper going from door to door, and it would be Southwest Conference, Big 12, and now here comes Texas for the SEC. Along these lines, Browns and Beers, did you see the quote from Quinn Ewers that was making the rounds on the internet this past week? I will say, in Quinn Ewers' defense, sometime like this was a quote that did look worse in print than it sounded when I actually heard him say this. But Quinn Ewers said, we are everybody's biggest game. We do understand that. Heading into the SEC, he said, we are everybody's biggest game. We do understand that. It was not as bad if you go listen to him. He was saying it like at the end of the sentence. I got your back on that a little bit, Quinn Ewers, but that is one of those things where it's like, okay, you roll your eyes a bit at that, right? Like Texas is going into the SEC saying, hey, we're everybody's biggest game. I mean, don't mind the fact that we've won the Big 12 once in the last 15 years, and now we're headed to the SEC. We're going to be everybody's biggest game. Don't mind the fact that, Georgia's here, Alabama's here, LSU's here, all these schools that have won national championships since we have. But we're the big boys on campus. Everybody will be psyched to play us more than anybody else. Yeah, it's an eye roll inducing comment there from Ewers for sure. So maybe Browns and Beers, that's right along with what you're saying. Texas is going in with that same attitude. We will see how it works out for them. We will see how it works out for them. The 2016 expansion, I'm always a little bit iffy on that one. Certainly no conference network. And having it be the Longhorn Network caused a lot of problems at the time. But it was also the only saving grace at the time that kept the Pac-12 from being the real dominant conference, right? With Texas, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. Is that what it was going to be to the Pac-12 at that point in time? At some point, I'd really like to go back and get like an oral history on that. And that's a video project that I have sitting in the back of my mind. But would definitely have to talk to Chip Brown, who was at the center of all of that. But yeah, fair points, Browns and Beers. Browns and Beers. And we'll see how it goes, man. The thing is, I don't know that Texas has the power to really hurt the SEC. I think if they went in with that sort of hubris, they would just get stuffed in a locker. I mean, that's the thing. Like the personalities are so strong and entrenched there in the SEC that I think they would just stick Texas in a locker before anything would really happen or get too out of hand. It would just be like, dude, go away. Like they'd get swatted like a fly. That's what would happen there. David, checking back in with David. What's up, David? David says, I think if schools hit the 12 to 15 million mark, UCF, BSU, Boise, TCU have shown you don't need all 4 and 5 stars to win. Get that minimum players per team at the right mark. Okay, so you're saying 12 to 15 as opposed to 22. Man, I don't know. Some of I keep saying devil's in the details. It's such an appropriate phrase for all this. It will depend on how all that's going to shape up. How it's going to have to be split. Like if it's split right down the middle and you can only give half of it to football players versus, or, just male athletes versus female athletes. And then do you have to distribute it evenly by sport? Like how much unequal distribution will be allowed? I think that will dictate some of how much it will matter to have the 22 million. You're still going to have to get collective contributions according to Jeremiah Donati. Boy, did Did I skip past that? I may have actually skipped past that. Jeremiah Donati said, along with the advent of Title IX in 1972, this settlement is the most important development in collegiate athletics history. Just like in any business or walk of life, change can bring new opportunities. Maximizing as many of those as possible for our student athletes is vital. Over the next year, we'll have a lot more answers on a wide variety of topics. In the meantime, continue to support the Flying T Club, which you have done so well. That is their collective. Even with this new industry model, the Flying T Club and collectives across the country are not going away. They will just look different, but they will still be a major part of college athletics. So the reference there, look different. Some people have talked about, all right, it looks more like you have to do actual legitimate corporate sponsorships, but that seemed like a more I guess if you want to call it optimistic. If you're a collective and you want to still be around, it's a more optimistic view of collectives still being around and being a piece of college athletics where you're going to be able to pay a lot of money to players through that. As opposed to collectives kind of going away and then it's all going to be the revenue sharing number. How exactly that's going to work, I'm sure my gut would certainly tell me that somehow collectives or whatever it might be are going to still be involved in funneling money to players, and you're not going to have to just stop at that 22 million number. But I guess that's the point to me, David, is like, okay, maybe you only hit 12 to 15 there. You're still going to probably need collective money to help get money for the players as well. I think it would be naive to think that you wouldn't. So I would actually say, I guess we could say 12 to 15. If it's going to have to be split evenly, maybe then it doesn't matter quite as much if you're only at 12 to 15 and you just need to make sure your collectives can beef up everything else for your football and men's basketball recruiting. That to me would seemingly still be a possible way that this splits. But there's just a lot that will have to play itself out before we know exactly how that's going to go down. Eddie Lozano. What's up, Eddie? Eddie Lozano, San Antonio Real Estate. Welcome, my friend. If you need a real estate agent in San Antonio, you guys know where to go. Check out my guy, Eddie. Eddie says, hi, buddy. To Texas and OU, I bid them farewell. To the new schools, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, welcome aboard. It's going to be fun. Look at this. Eddie Lozano, all class. This is why if you need a real estate agent in San Antonio, make sure and hit up Eddie. He's all class, my friends. All class. Yeah. I think most people are not taking quite that much of the high road as Texas and Oklahoma do depart. I will say that Joe Castiglione, Oklahoma athletic director, did take the high road. So I will give him some credit for that. He sent out a nice tweet thread about the Big 12, but I definitely have some thoughts on both sides of the aisle in reaction to that I will get to later on in the show. But I appreciate the class, Eddie. It will be fun. It will definitely be fun to have the new schools in and see how all of that is going to work out in the league this year, especially this first year when it feels like so many different teams could actually win the conference. So keep that in mind too. Yes, well, Texas and Oklahoma go. We are, as a conference, welcoming in 4 new teams. Michael, what's up, Michael? How many of the All-State 12 schools have a natty? Well, I would need you to be more specific there. Are we talking about football? Well, I believe you're a BYU fan, which is, I'm guessing, why you are asking that. I mean, I'm having to go off the top of my head. K-State, no. Iowa State, no. Kansas, no. Oklahoma State claims one from like the 40s, right? And there's some controversy over that, if I recall correctly. Pokes, you're going to have to help me out. West Virginia, I don't think does, right? TCU, does TCU have one way back in the day? It's coming to my mind like perhaps that's there. Don't think Tech does. Don't think Baylor does. This will be a long exercise for me to go through, Michael. But if the point is that that BYU does, and that certainly helps out the league, then yes, point taken. Point taken. Very, very much so. Andre, what's up, Andre? Appreciate you. Thank you, Andre. I do not see a question or comment, Andre, but I believe you typically do just chime in like this. So shout out to Andre for being a great supporter of the channel. Thank you, my friend. If you do have something and I am missing it, just let me know. Just let me know. Reading some of the comments here. Now, Paul, I might need you to show some work here. So I know I mentioned Texas Tech earlier, and Paul is now telling me I'm behind the curve on the news. Texas Tech is going to pay student athletes, okay, 25K. So we're talking about 25K, not 25 million here. Okay, all student athletes. What does that total to, my friend? That would be my question. To all football players, right? $25,000 to all football players. What's 25K times 100? Online calculator. I was aware that happened. That's a 2-year-old story. But I don't. This revenue sharing number that's like $2.5 million. So what you're referencing there would be $2.5 million. I guess if it doubles, it would be $5 million. I don't think that this is any guarantee that like Texas Tech is hitting the 22 million number that we're talking about for revenue sharing with all athletes there, but we will see. I mean, I appreciate the follow-up at least. And I know that Texas Tech fans were balking a little bit at the Jeremiah Donati comments just to say like, hey, you're not the only ones. We've been making a big commitment. And look, I have no doubt, to be honest, I would have thought Texas Tech would make sense as the first school to come way out and say, we're doing this, screw everybody else. Texas Tech's got plenty of money. I mean, I know that is not a concern there at all. So anyway, appreciate you chiming in, Paul. Lonnie, Colorado has one. Yeah, that's right. I forget Colorado joining the conference. You're right. Colorado does have one. Very proud program. The Colorado that I remember when I was growing up was a great program. I think that was 1990. Wasn't that 1990 that Colorado won it all? Like, is that Rashawn Salam? Was Rashawn Salam playing back then on that team? I forget. There was the 30 for 30 about it. David, UCF does just ask them. You know what? Damn it, David, here on this channel, we recognize UCF as the 2017 national champs. I loved that whole thing so much, and that worked out as so much good publicity for UCF and gave them, I think, a lot of notoriety. Like, I loved that move 1,000,000% by UCF. So I will support the UCF 2017 national championship. I will definitely do that. On this channel, we do. So thank you, David. Oh, that's a bummer. That's a bummer. I like Rashawn Salam. Remember him as a kid. The Big 8 shirt, I think it was like, I see people asking about the Big 8 shirt. I think it was like Super 70s Sports is the store, like the shop online where you can buy the shirt. I got it a couple of years ago though, so I'm not entirely sure if that is still available, but I hope that it is. Okay. You can keep the super chats coming. Click the $ below the chat box if you want to make sure that you get on tonight. I've been asking you for your best Texas memories, your best Oklahoma memories. Make sure you feed those to me here on the channel. And I'm going to get to a bunch of those on Twitter because I got a ton of reaction. Again, much more on the Texas side, as it's become very clear here at the end, especially with Joe Castiglione's a nice tweet thread that he threw out there, at least a little bit of respect to the conference on the way out. Not much there between Texas. I've seen Oklahoma fans coming in my mentions a little bit saying how much they respect like K-State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, schools that they have played for 100+ years. There seems to be much more respect between the Sooners and the Cats and everybody else in the league than there is between Texas and everybody else in the league right now. That much seems very, very apparent. Maybe we'll start with Joe Castiglione. Why don't we start with Joe Castiglione on this? We'll see how much you guys are digging what the Oklahoma athletic director had to say here. I mean, this is a guy that I know, like Bob Bowlesby, he talked about at the time when it happened. He was very shocked that a guy like Joe Castiglione, who was a real friend of his, could bail on the league the way he did and do it kind of behind his back without giving him any sort of heads up. I know Bowlesby famously said that he felt a little bit blindsided by that, but I mean, I will say, Castiglione has the reputation, deservedly so, as being one of the best athletic directors in college athletics. I think that's earned, and most of what I have heard about him is definitely that, yeah, he is a guy that would be someone who could do this, be a little bit more classy on his way out the door. So Castiglione says, a post of gratitude to the Big 12. I had the unique opportunity to join a group of visionary leaders to create a conference called the Big 12, which would begin competing in the fall of 1996. It's been a fascinating and rewarding experience working with so many exceptional people, from commissioners, university presidents, chancellors, athletic directors, faculty representatives, women leaders, coaches, game officials, and most notably the student athletes we serve. Like others, the Big 12 faced the various issues of the day and changed membership and will change again tomorrow. I personally want to express sincere thanks to the aforementioned people, as well as many others I met while representing our university and or the Big 12 in various roles. I will forever be grateful for the relationships and the memories developed. I want to send my very best wishes to the new Big 12 and congratulate all the members on their first day tomorrow, July 1st. Joe Castiglione. Look, on some level, I definitely do appreciate that. I definitely do appreciate that. There are different vibes there for me personally with Oklahoma than Texas. If you go back to like the shows that were happening on this channel at the time, I believe a lot of the message then and how I still feel about Oklahoma versus Texas is that like Oklahoma earned going to the SEC much more so than Texas did. If there's one school that earned the right to be a little bit arrogant on the way out the door, it is Oklahoma, for the way that they competitively subsidized the league as long as they did by winning and actually making it to multiple college football playoffs and not going 14 years without winning the league and being a 7-5 program for the better part of 2 decades, like what Texas did. And that you have to respect. Like Oklahoma here, yes, Bowlesby may have been blindsided. It may have been a bit of a snake kind of move, but it really had to be if Oklahoma was going to do it. And yeah, I mean, the tectonic plates of college football were shifting in a way that's a move that you probably have to make. Like if the SEC is interested, if Texas is interested, you can't let Texas go without you. You're going to have to go. And if you're going to make that happen, you cannot be telling people about it. Certainly not the commissioner of the league, Bob Bowlesby. So I get that, like, Castiglione was kind of painted into a corner where he almost had to do it. And his school had earned the right to do it because they had been carrying the league with their play on the field for years. And they were the team that would win the league every single year. Somebody else, an Oklahoma fan, put out the statistics of Big 12 history since the league formed in 1996. And obviously, Oklahoma was far and away number one in terms of winning percentage in the conference. And overall, they earned it. They earned it. Much different than Texas. So I appreciate Castiglione to an extent for doing this. Now, is there a part of me that looks at it a little bit like, okay, man, like, do we need you to patronize us on the way out? I know that's not at all how it's intended, but it does come across a little bit like, just go, dude. Like, yeah, we know we're the have-nots now. You're the haves. Okay, that's great. There's a little bit of that to me. And on that note, I respect the fact that Castiglione would do that because he's probably going to take crap on both sides for that. That's really sort of a no-win position for him to put out that statement. Because I already saw Oklahoma fans in the replies and the quote tweets saying they don't deserve this. Like, well, this is why you're great, Joe, but the Big 12 doesn't deserve this. Like, screw those guys. You know, there's a lot of that fan sentiment. You're going to get a lot of that from your fans. Like, Joe, why you don't acknowledge them? Like, don't be nice to them. They didn't support us the way that they should, all these things. And then on the other side, you're going to get a lot of people, I'm sure, like me, that just kind of go like, all right, dude, like, screw off. Don't patronize us. That's definitely a no-win position, but he did it anyway and did it on Twitter where you're going to get basically nothing but hate. So I appreciate that from Joe C. And now let's get to some of your memories about Texas and Oklahoma on the way out the door. Because Oklahoma was so nice and Joe Castiglione was so nice here, why don't we start with Texas? Let's go see what these reply numbers are actually up to. So I asked about, there you go. We have basically 3 times as many people wanting to weigh in and take some shots at Texas as Oklahoma. 63 replies to 22. Here are your favorite memories of Texas in the Big 12. Patrick, Michael Beasley drops 30 points and 15 rebounds, but Texas escapes Bramlage for the win. Oh, come on, man. Come on, not a Texas win. There we go. Now this is my personal favorite. Outside of Texas going 14 years without winning the league before last year, my personal favorite Texas memory in the Big 12 is Texas with Ricky Williams, the year that he won the Heisman, losing in Manhattan 48-7. Ricky Williams held to 43 rushing yards on 25 carries. K-State defense totally dominating him. Michael Bishop very much outplaying him. And then, of course, Ricky Williams Career Achievement Award for the Heisman that year, and Bishop is the runner-up. But I digress. That was certainly one very good day. Here's a video. I'm sure that a lot of people hit me with this. Michael Crabtree with his touchdown against Texas late in the game. That was 2008. And I do have to laugh here at the caption of this video. I'm not going to play the video because I don't want this to get like a monetization strike here, a copyright strike. But you got to love the caption of the video. Crabtree touchdown against Texas. Look at McCoy's face. Ha, 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 ha. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So there's a lot of that from Texas Tech fans. Juan, our guy Juan, shout out to Juan. Feel like I haven't seen him in a live chat in a minute. Appreciate him. Says tomorrow, which would obviously be them leaving. Sean, when that fat white Jayhawk caught a game-winning score against them. God, why can I not think of the dude's name? He was on the Applebee's commercial. This is bad. I should be able to remember that Kansas tight end. Was it like a Casey? Anyway, now this, Will Greer to Gary Jennings. I want it. Someone has either a video or a GIF of this somewhere later on. That is one of my absolute favorite Big 12 moments, period. The Will Greer to Gary Jennings touchdown pass to beat Texas. The way that it happened, the time of the game, there's like 20 seconds left in the fourth quarter, a bomb, and then just the degree of difficulty on the play. One of my favorite games that I can remember watching as just a neutral Big 12 fan. Texas Tech, Raider Rash says, beating them my freshman year in Austin. Good times. All right, we've got a Kansas. There we go. Kansas over Texas in football. K-State fan says he was even rooting for them. Well, here we go. This was earlier in the game. This is David Sills, right? Dropping the horns down. Wasn't that a big controversy that day? Wasn't that a big controversy that day, West Virginia fans? Did they get flagged with WVU for that? But Jim echoes this, Will Greer to Gary Jennings, deep in the back of the end zone. You also had like the crowd shot after that touchdown where Jennings is just like standing there mean mugging the Texas students. That whole interaction, that was beautiful. And man, that West Virginia team was just fun to watch. That was really fun to watch. BYU fans, I did see some of this. Taysom Hill running over, around, and through Texas. That's a really fun one. That's a really fun one. I can remember a Colin Klein game where, here you go, LJH, the game Klein passed the ball like 4 times. Let me see if we can find that box score. K-State, Texas football, 2010. This is one of the wildest box scores you will ever see. K-State beats Texas 39-14, and Colin Klein threw 4 passes. He was 2 of 4 for 9 yards. K-State had 20 yards passing as a team and beat Texas by 25 points. 261 rushing yards on 50 carries. That was a wild one. A wild one for sure. We got a couple people with that. The We Own Texas days for K-State. Oh, somebody says the good old handshake line controversy with Rodney Terry last year. That was UCF, right? When he was all upset about UCF. We've got just a nice Cincinnati. That's a really good Cincinnati. That's good form there on the horns down. That's Excellent. Excellent. Very well done. Look at the Iowa State kid. We got the Iowa State kid going in with the horns down. Every Brock Cunningham 5th foul. That's a pretty good one. God, there's so many responses. Everybody weighing in on Texas. I liked this one. Texas 2.89 GPA, highest semester GPA in team history, prepared on the field. That's not bad. There you go. There's your Michael Crabtree catch along the sidelines in 2008. You guys get the point. We've got a lot of good memories that people have about Texas on their way out. So Texas, to the horns. Thank you for all the memories. I feel like this is where, again, if it wouldn't get copyright strike for me, I would pick up my guitar, which is right over there, and just start playing Green Day's Time of Your Life. You know, I mean, that's kind of what this moment feels like it really, really deserves. I guess, you know what? We'll do a little bit of Oklahoma. Let's give Oklahoma a little bit of a send-off here. See what people had to say about the Sooners. I know there was at least, some of this was negative toward Oklahoma, but Mike Steely here, respect to Mike Steely from KREF, said most respect for a Big 12 fan base upon exit definitely goes to K-State. Bill Snyder did the best job in college football history with what he had to work with. Love that. Texas Tech, the a la peanut butter sandwiches game against number 3 Oklahoma in Norman 2011. After a lengthy rain delay, Tech won 41-38, which snapped a 39-game home winning streak for OU. Boy, Tommy Tuberville. Yeah, how about Tommy Tuberville doing that? Man, I'd forgotten that was Tommy Tuberville. Ben, a K-State win from a couple of years ago with Adrian Martinez in the Big 12 championship season. It was right after K-State had lost to Tulane. I'm sure a lot of West Virginia fans would be here. Pat White, West Virginia pouring it on against Oklahoma in the 2008 Fiesta Bowl. Got BYU Oklahoma in 2009. Lots of K-State fans hitting me with this. K-State beating number 1 Oklahoma 35-7 in the 2003 Big 12 championship game. That was pretty great. Darren Sproles running absolutely wild on Oklahoma in that game. Here's more mutual respect. More mutual respect from Oklahoma fans here. Billy Tubbs is a pretty good one, but Billy Tubbs didn't technically coach in the Big 12, right? Right? Billy Tubbs would have been out of there by 96. Am I crazy? Here's another, today, when they are going away, destroying Caleb Williams in Waco so badly that the "We Want Spencer" chants became loud and humorous. That's from Artillery Bear 91. That's pretty good. Now, see, Matt, here's a little bit of respect. We actually got a little bit of respect here outside of K-State winning, seeing such a great streak of super talented QBs roll through there. Some fun games to watch. So we got some people being, oh boy, 77-0 on Texas A&M. I got to be careful though here, because I had a Texas A&M fan get very upset with me over the Texas video where I feel like in general, like kind of sticking up for them, saying how crappy of a move that was from Texas to take Schlossnagle. But I did say I'm not one to not laugh at Texas A&M in that scenario because of how obnoxious some of their online fan base can be. And boy, one A&M fan got very, very upset with me over that. So I should be careful. John Blake existing. I do miss the John Blake era at Oklahoma. Rest in peace. I do miss the John Blake era at OU. OSU beating Caleb Williams and Lincoln so bad they moved to California. That was a fun 48 hours or so. So anyway, there we go. There's the OU memories from the crowd. That's what everybody thinks of the Sooners on their way out the door. So Oklahoma, look, I'm not going to really trash you too much. I mean, obviously that Big 12 championship game in 2003 was a great memory. One of my personal favorites, just because like I was there and it was such a pivotal moment early in the Kleiman era, was the win in 2019 over Jalen Hurts and company. That was a lot of fun and really unexpected. So I did love that one as well. But I will pay some respects to the Sooners on their way out the door here. All right, some super chats to get caught up on. Make sure I'm not missing anything yet. We got David there. G. David Davis. What's up, G. David Davis? Thank you for being here, my friend. G. David Davis says TCU has an undisputed number 1 in 1938. Davey O'Brien, okay. Debated claim to number 1 in 1936. Sammy Baugh. And although it's off topic, number 2 in 2010, number 3 in 2014, and a stinker number 2 in 2022. Yeah, fair. I knew TCU. I was like, I know TCU has one from back in the day. That was one that definitely stuck out. I appreciate the context there on Davey O'Brien and Sammy Baugh. That's obviously pretty damn rich history with those two right there. And yeah, TCU, man, I do. Maybe it's just me. I do feel like it gets glossed over a little bit with like the consistency of Oklahoma State and how like, K-State, Kansas, and then Utah coming in are kind of like hot right now. That people forget, like, yeah, not only did TCU just go to the national championship game 2 years ago, but they have had some incredible teams and incredible finishes. Number 2 in 2010, number 3 in 2014. You go look at like the year by year. I mean, nobody has put together more 11 plus win seasons than TCU in this league and what they've done over the last 15 years. The thing obviously has been, there's been a lot of variance. There have definitely then been some more lows. It's not been as like consistent, but the highs have been really high at TCU. So there's definitely a ceiling there. Definitely a ceiling there. G. David Davis, appreciate you. Thank you for that contribution and the context there. Really love that. David, now this is a good one. This is a good one. David's favorite Oklahoma Big 12 memory, the Boise State Statue of Liberty play against Oklahoma in the bowl game. Really just that entire game. I mean, that was, what year was Oklahoma Boise State? Was that like 2008? January 1st, 2007. So it was after the 06 season. That was almost 20 years ago, and I can still remember exactly where I watched that game. I can picture myself at a friend's house that I was watching that game with a couple buddies. Still remember exactly where I was, because that was such an incredible game. So I'm not going to like slam Oklahoma for that. That's not like let's go dunk on Oklahoma. That was just, hey, they were a part of one of the greatest college football games I think that's ever been played. That was crazy. So David, that's a good one. That is definitely a good one. Lewis. Hey, real quick. All right. So Paul, show me some work on this. Show me some work on this. If you're saying that Texas Tech should be getting credit over TCU as the first school here, get me something other than just you talking in the chat here, and we'll discuss it. I will definitely give Texas Tech the credit if it deserves to be there. And as I said, again, people on Twitter, I know Lewis just told me to stay off Twitter, but people on Twitter, at least one Texas Tech fan was saying the same thing. So hit me up with a little bit more than just that. Lewis says, if you have never seen Grover does Tyson Hill versus Texas video on YouTube, you are missing a classic, hilarious video. Okay. Okay. Is it what? Is this supposed to be Taysom as opposed to Tyson? Grover does Tyson Hill versus Texas. I'm seeing something popping up that says Grover and Taysom. So I'm imagining that's probably what it is. Again, if I play it live on the show, I will probably get flagged with something that will keep this from being monetized. So I'm going to have to do it after the show. But I will look it up. It's in the tab. It's in the tab next to this one. So I've got it all ready to go. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for your support of the channel. Appreciate that. Tom, what's up, Tom? Tom says, now that Texas is leaving, can we quit pretending the Big 12 is a brand new conference and just admit that it was the Big 8 adding 4 teams from a defunct conference? Okay, Tom Dean bringing the old school take here that has been held on to for a while. Yeah, I mean, that's the Big 12 does not count the Big 8 stuff in its records, right? So in essence, they were recognizing it as kind of a new conference there. Yeah, I mean, in today's context, I guess it does look a little bit silly, right? Because you've got 4 schools coming in, 2 schools going out. In the last 2 years, you've had 8 schools coming in and 2 going out. So with all that movement, you're still keeping it the same conference. By our modern standards, it is definitely something that looks a little bit weird and a little odd and silly to have recognized the Big 12 at the time as a new conference and not doing it now, like not changing the name now. Although, hey, All-State 12, I guess, it's going to kind of change there once we get to that. But I see the point that you're making. At the time, though, it was a little bit different, right? I think that still felt more revolutionary. Seems like too strong of a word, but kind of, it was just a bigger concept at the time. It was more of a shock to the system at the time because we hadn't had nearly as much realignment as like the world that we live in today. So I think you make a fair point that by today's standards, that should not have been deemed this like totally new conference. That honestly, by today's standards, would have been just another offseason. That's just another offseason. Like that's what happens. So yeah, fair. I can see that, Tom. I don't think that's a bad take. Appreciate you sharing that. Eddie, what's up, Eddie? Eddie, all right. Eddie says Texas against Nebraska in the championship game, the last play. Would Nebraska have left the Big 12 if Texas would have missed the field goal? Well, boy, I mean, Nebraska fans definitely felt like they got jobbed on the clock, keeping around that last second. No, I mean, I don't think Nebraska had many a grievance with Texas. And I think those that were around at the time would tell you like those grievances started like before or as soon as Texas entered the league. Nebraska at the time, obviously in the early to mid 90s, was the power of the Big Eight. Colorado and K-State were very, very good, but Nebraska was the dominant force. And they were the big boys in the room. And here comes Texas. Back to the comments earlier about the SEC. Here comes Texas. You know how they acted, waltzing into that room now, and they didn't care about Nebraska. And so a lot of it was Nebraska and Texas just having some egos clashing there. And Texas certainly wasn't going to back down. And so, yeah, I think there was just a lot of stuff that had been pent up and built up for a long time between Nebraska and Texas. And one thing like that would not have made enough of a difference. But, if you want to say something like that was just like a perfect little cherry on top as to why Nebraska was exiting the conference, I would definitely listen to that. It was very emblematic of what the reference was, or relationship was. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read too much as I'm going on here. Very emblematic of what the relationship was. So appreciate it, Eddie. Thank you for popping in tonight. Great to hear from you. Jared Casey, thank you, Alan. I knew it was a Casey. Jared Casey, that's really bad of me that I could not think of his first name. So Alan, appreciate you. Thank you for your support of the channel. Alan says, John, best memory of Texas was when the Jayhawks walk-on Jared Casey caught the game-winning touchdown pass. It was Lance Leipold's first great win. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Yeah, that was definitely a sign to everybody that, like, yo, Lance Leipold knows what he's doing. And they went down to Austin and won that game. And that, speaking of, like, just great Big 12 games, I can remember where I was watching that game at a friend's house. And that was just a fabulous game. And that's, God, can we just get back to that? Like, I need Saturdays here to be watching games like that late at night. It's just the best thing out there in the world. So Alan, great memory. And I'm sure that is for Kansas fans, probably their first. Appreciate you, man. Lewis, what's up, Lewis? Grover and Tyson, JK typo before. Okay, Grover and Tyson. So I have the right video. Wait, Grover and Tyson. Okay. I don't know. I think I have the right video. I see the Grover and Taysom. I see Grover and Taysom. I'm assuming that we're in the right spot there. So, yes, appreciate you, Lewis. Leslie A. Hill, thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Is there something I'm supposed to do with that? Like a super sticker? I actually don't know that I've ever seen that before. We got a super sticker. And then we go to David. David says, I was at that game. We would have taken our trophy and put it in the trunk on our drive to Chicago. Yeah. I agree with that. Brutal to be at that game. Although, I mean, great college football game. And that's a cool memory to say that you were at that game, like a game that had that much significance. So, I'm with you, David. That's cool, man. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sorry. I would really love to know like what the immediate aftermath of that was like what were Nebraska fans doing and how were they reacting in the stadium in the wake of that happening and the second being left on the clock there for Texas to kick the field goal and win the game. I would love to know what that was actually like. Okay, we are winding down here. If you do have a buzzer beater, now is definitely the time. I'm going to answer a couple things that I see here. Nate, did John talk about Josh Pate's update? I did just briefly because I have not had a chance to hear it. He was like live as the same time I was prepping the show. So this all happened too fast. I haven't actually heard it myself, but I did have Jamie who hit me up in the DMs and let me know about the fact that Josh Pate did say, it sounds like the paraphrase there was that Florida State and others are going to leave the ACC, and like we could be finding out about that in July. If I'm wrong on that, then that's just my fault from trying to take something there like second or third hand. I have not had a chance to hear it yet, but so you'll have to wait until I get a chance to actually hear it and like get some legitimate reaction to that. Would have been just totally rushing in there, but did want to make that clear. I talked about it just briefly. I basically told you the same thing that I said right there earlier on in the video, Nate. So you didn't miss anything, I guess is the point. You did not miss anything. I saw like RJ asking here, if you guys missed the beginning of the video, you'll need to go catch it. Obviously that was the first thing that we talked about in the video, being that it was there on the title. It's that the Big 12 is not going to back down on the revenue sharing piece of this, because we have Jeremiah Donati at TCU coming out and publicly saying they're going to pay the full revenue sharing number. And I'd imagine one school does that in the Big 12. Everybody else is going to be basically forced to fall in line or completely fall back. And to me, it plays into this same message that the Big 12 has been sending by exploring the naming rights, exploring private capital and private equity, which is, hey, we are not going to back down. We are not going to be your minor league. We're going to go down swinging. Maybe this won't work. Maybe it'll come back to haunt us in a while, but we're going to figure out a way to do this. I also shared that I do believe that K-State's plan is to hit that full number. And that has maybe changed at least a bit from what the public sentiment was from Gene Taylor a couple of weeks ago when I played his audio here on the channel. And so I thought, hey, timing of this from Jeremiah Donati, maybe they're feeling better about the private equity thing getting through to the presidents. That's just a little bit of educated speculation. So I expanded on it much more at the beginning of the video, but that is what we talked about there for anybody that is just catching up here. I'm surprised I'm getting this one today. I don't know. I know there was one person complaining last time. I will give you guys the same explanation here. I've got to give you a reason to come see the video. I don't think that misrepresents anything about what I just said. My take is Jeremiah Donati's message in his letter to fans was a pretty big statement that is being made in essence on behalf of the league, and where I think everybody's going to fall in line after TCU. It's a pretty big statement that the Big 12 is not going to just be a pushover for the SEC and the Big 10. So I don't feel like I misrepresented anything with the title, but you are entitled to your own opinion. Okay. That is what we got. Oh, we've got the LSU troll in here. You know, LSU, can you go troll Texas? Like, please go troll Texas. You got Texas in the league now. You got Oklahoma too. It'll be more fun to troll Texas. I'm just going to put that out there as a little aside for you. Go get after the Longhorns a little bit. If I were an LSU fan, I just don't know why I would feel the need to punch down at the Big 12. I don't know why you would have the need to punch down at the Big 12. Yes, we know that LSU is one of the best football programs in the country. You'll get that from me. There's the validation for you from me, at least. Tom, name choice, All-State 12 or Big All-State? Well, I've been told by a Big 12 source that Big All-State is not going to happen. So if that deal goes through, it would be the All-State 12. I think I and many others were told by a Big 12 source, but I can definitely tell you that I was directly told by a Big 12 source, Big All-State will not happen. If you're asking me, like, which one would I prefer? It doesn't really matter. I got to be honest. I don't really have an opinion there. I don't care. I don't think either way there's enough like equity built up in either. I know people say like, well, why not just do Big Allstate because the number doesn't matter anymore. Whatever brand equity is there is actually wrapped up in the 12, I would argue. So like maybe I would lean toward Allstate 12 because there is another conference with Big. There are multiple other conferences with Big. There's only one that still has the 12 now that the Pac-12 is gone. So you at least have probably a little bit more brand equity there, even though it's not much. So I guess that's probably my take on it, Tom. That's probably my take on it. David, what's up, David? As Huskers fans, we were Big 12 champs for roughly 10 seconds. Yeah. We were jumping and hugging each other at the same time. That's really tough, man. That is really tough. I can only remember one time that I really experienced that as a sports fan, and it was a basketball game. You know, it was a K-State basketball game, so like way less significant than a Big 12 championship football game. But it was a game at Colorado, and Rodney Magruder hit a buzzer beater. We started going nuts, jumping up and down, running around. It took us like 10 minutes to realize they actually had gone back and reviewed it, and literally it was like a 10th of a second too late, and it got wiped off, and they lost. So yeah, it's a brutal feeling. I can only imagine in a conference championship game, man. I don't mean to laugh. That's awful. That's tough, David. That is definitely tough. Definitely tough. And David says, J.K. Tomo and our president accepted the invite to the Big Ten via the phone in Mound City, Kansas, FYI, known as the Mound City invite to Husker fans. Is that real? Mound City, Kansas? I just Googled Nebraska, Mound City, Kansas, and I'm not seeing much Big Ten invite. I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that. That's crazy if true. That's crazy if true, David. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out here tonight. Going to wrap it up with this. Enjoy your last look here at the Big 8 shirt. It looked like what I mentioned earlier, that 70s sports store or whatever it was, still has them if you want them. So if you want to reminisce like the good old days, you can definitely do it with me too. Please like the video on your way out the door. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you would like to contribute to the channel there. And if you leave a question or comment, I will kick off the next show with that. Spread the word. I'm trying to think if I had another announcement for you guys. I believe I will have a big announcement for you on Wednesday about a way to get more content from me. I think I'm finally there to be able to unveil that for you this week. So stay tuned for that. And please do spread the word to all your friends, social media, friends, family. Tell friends about the channel. Get them here. Get them in the live chats. Let's continue to grow this channel. I appreciate each and every one of you very, very much. Thank you for being here. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.